flashcards.
Hi, everybody.
What's up? Welcome to the Cherrywood Prints Quilt exhibit here at Streetlight Guild. My name is Scott Woods.
I'm Erica Thompson.
And we will be giving you a guided tour of this incredible art exhibit. Erica, you want to tell them a little bit about Cherrywood and the whole exhibit?
Sure. So the exhibit is sponsored by Cherrywood Hand-Dyed Fabrics. They are located in Minnesota. And they've been doing these themed contests for several years now. Like some of their past themes have been The Lion King, and Wicked, and Van Gogh, and Bob Ross. And right now they're doing a Princess Diana contest, which you can still enter if you go to cherrywoodfabrics.com. But for the Prince contest, they got about 388 submissions, and they whittled that down into 3 different tours. This tour here is called the Prince Live Tour. Forgive my mask, I'm still adjusting. It has about 75 quilts in it, which you're going to see today. And each person had to use a certain limited fabric, and they had to do 20 inches by 20 inches. So you're going to see some really beautiful quilts today that we're really excited to show you.
I guess the only thing that I'll add up front too is that this exhibit has been traveling the country, and it was supposed to show up at Paisley Park in April, I believe, but you know, all of this. And so we are extremely fortunate to have been able to still get the exhibit, even though no one can come see it in person, which makes us very, very sad. So I think, without any further ado, we'll probably just jump right into this. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to grab our respective phones now, and then we'll take you on in, all right? So this is the last time you'll see us. All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do this. It's the big reveal. Oh, yeah.
Take that in.
So at this point, you should be imagining Prince music playing, because that's how I would have done it in person. Now, I just want y'all to know that this is the first of 2 floors. So we're going to show you this half and then take you upstairs to see the other half. We're just going to give you a quick view of what's happening on the first floor.
Well, let's go ahead and give them your Prince artwork here.
Yeah, this piece is always here. So, and we have the church pew underneath. That's not entirely unintentional, but it's also not overtly intentional either. But Prince is always watching all of the art that takes place in this space. All right. And you ready to start doing quilts?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's do it, Erica. I'll let you jump in there and let's do this.
Well, Scott actually curated this floor, and I curated upstairs.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, so I'm going to actually...
I'm already messing up.
It's fine.
All right, so let's start with the first panel. So this first piece is by Tracy Beecher. It's entitled The Prince in the Purple Rain. And you're going to notice with these quilts that they have a lot of the same colors, right? That is not a coincidence. That's part of the contest. They were given certain fabrics to use from Cherrywood, right? There's a whole packet, right?
Yeah, it's called the Prince Bundle. And again, a little plug for them, cherrywoodfabrics.com. You can actually order that bundle if you want to do your own Prince quilt.
And I'm going to get in here close because what kind of looks, a little shiny from back is like little glitter. It's like little beaded. You can really see it. Right?
Yeah, it's really detailed.
Also, this musical staff here is, I believe, incorrect.
No, yeah, you can't really play this. I mean, you can pick out some of the notes, but I don't think it'll be a recognizable Prince tune.
Right. I'll let the musician handle all of the staff notes. The next quilt is just Mysterious Prince by Kayla Boda out of San Diego. Back up so you can get the full. Also dope, right? And things that look like they might be painted or whatever, while that was something that a lot of the artists were allowed to do, most of them just kind of stitched in other shades of fabric, right? So the detail work on his face is all just different fabric. And you can really see the stitching, like that's a lot of work. And the white is even dope, right? Like in the back, if you see the swirls, it's amazing. Let's show you the third one. Boom. This one is entitled Sublime Soul by Suzanne Beck out of Chesterfield, Missouri.
Yeah, and people from all over the country participated in this contest. There are a lot of folks from Minneapolis, of course. There are also a lot of folks from California, too. We had one gentleman from Ohio when the Prince Home Tour, I believe, was on display in Cincinnati. So no Ohio people this time, but that's okay.
Let's go to the next panel.
Before we get into this, I do want to say I just love how Prince had different looks for different eras, and I feel like our artists today don't really do that. I don't know, what do you think, Scott? Or if they do that, it seems like they're trying too hard. I just don't get that same excitement from them like when their different albums come out.
No, definitely reinvention was something that Prince used. He practically weaponized reinvention, right?
Yes.
Almost at a certain point with almost every album. And no, artists today aren't really into that. It's more of a brand thing, and it's hard to build brand if you're constantly changing, right? So, let's go to this quote here. This is The Purple Passion of Prince by Barbara McElroy out of Greeley, Colorado. And you're going to notice on this panel, this is like a guitar panel, right? So Cherrywood already kind of put stuff together in certain ways, and then we kind of figured out a different order here. But this one is really dope. The musical notes on this are not entirely fabric, right? So like the staves of the bars, right, of the musical notes are, but the notes themselves, the heads, are beads, if you see that. It's great stuff. And the next one.
This one is really cool. It's got his song titles weaved in there, or woven in there.
This might be my favorite one with guitars on it. It features two of his iconic guitars, cloud guitar, cymbal guitar, and it's got staff work in the back, which you can see. That's actually painted on in this case. And then let me get in close on the white one. Cloud guitar, so you can really see what's happening in there. Look at that. Susan Smith, The Notes Slowly Falling is the name of this piece, and she got the right fabric for that white one. And look at all the knobs and everything. It's just dope. Let's go to the next one. This one's entitled Be True to Yourself. This is by Pat Hildebrand out of Columbia, Missouri.
I love the lace, the additional lace that they included on the quilt here. And you can see all the detail with the gold paint there.
Mm-hmm. Like, it's almost like they practically had to kind of make the costume to put it on the quilt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see the raindrops and the puddles of water there. Awesome. Now, nowhere in this exhibit will you see the Fender Telecaster with the leopard print, which is one of my favorite of his guitars. And I didn't realize the emotional connection that I had to his guitars until I went to Paisley Park and I saw them on display. And I remember like walking in the room and seeing the Fender Telecaster and just bursting into tears.
Yeah.
And I think because like when I like fell in love with Prince's music was watching him do Computer Blue and Purple Rain, and he was playing that guitar. And then to see him use it throughout his career, it just really had an impact on me that I didn't realize.
All right, next panel. So you're going to start seeing the next couple of panels, and when we say panel, each panel has 3 quilts on it, okay? So this panel here, these next 2 panels have a lot of song references, right? So they don't necessarily have Prince in them. A couple of them will, but for the most part, they're kind of talking about songs here. And I'll just kind of give you a quick overview and then we'll zoom in.
You guys should put the song titles in the comments too.
Yeah. So the first one is In Through the Outdoor by Janice Marquardt from Van Meter, Iowa. I enjoyed this one. It's cute, right? 5 and Dime, In Through the Outdoor, Raspberry Beret, Little Red Corvette thrown in for good measure. It's dope. The next one is Dream If You Can by Cynthia Myers out of Genoa, Nevada. This one's got a lot going on, as we put it. It may not have any direct references to necessarily anything. And I should mention, too, that Cherrywood put out a book for this exhibit. They do for all of these quilt competitions. And they put a book out, which you can buy from their site. And it has...
Fabric.com.
Yes, and so it has artist statements for each piece. We didn't get the book, but that's not really what art is about, right? Art is about kind of what you get out of it. And so while you don't want to like grossly misinterpret someone's art, most artists are okay with hearing what you think the art is going on, what it's about, right?
Animals strike curious poses. Okay, I'll stop.
I don't know if he was into rabbits. There's a rabbit in there, I'm just saying. All right.
Look at that detail there with the different shades of purple and the green. That's awesome.
Yeah. The next one. This one's entitled Kiss by Linda Sullivan out of Palm Desert, California. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Last panel on this wall. Boom. This is Prince of Hearts by Patricia Heinrichs out of Tucson, Arizona. I'm going to get in a little close here because this one has a little bit of detail that you can't tell from far away. This kind of has a shrine effect going on, right, with the candles and the flowers. But if you kind of zoom in on where Prince's skin is, his hands and his face, you'll see that there are song titles all on that.
I'm kind of happy to see New Position and I Wonder on there.
Why do you say that?
Because I think most of a lot of the quilts, I will say, reference like Raspberry Beret and songs like that, Purple Rain, of course. So it's cool to get some Parade in there.
Mm-hmm. I'm always going to be down for some Parade. All right, the next one, Booyah. This one's entitled Starfish and Coffee, if you couldn't guess it from its references. Maple syrup, starfish, coffee. This one's fun.
It really is. And like, look at the swirls there.
And it has paint, right? The swirls, the smoke is paint. The cap of the maple syrup is paint. I'm reasonably sure that there's some pen work here on this maple syrup label. But then the starfish are exciting, right? That's all like beadwork. Yeah, it's great. And then the last one on this panel is called Prince's Reign. A little play on words there, right? This is by Lori Miller out of Rolla, Missouri. And this one's pretty straightforward, right? We got a dove. We've got the birth and death dates. We've got Prince in that really iconic, like, blue outfit.
From the Super Bowl.
From the Super Bowl, right, yeah. Crown, of course. But then, if you didn't peep it, that's the state of Minnesota, right, going on there. And isn't Minnesota like the land of lakes or something like that?
Oh, don't ask me.
Yeah.
Someone tell us in the comments.
Yeah. I'm going to get in on that crown a little bit because that's exciting. Yeah. It's good stuff.
Scott, what do you think about when you take this in from Minnesota, his home state, and then the Super Bowl image?
So when I first saw this, I started to think about how a place really latches on to you if you've contributed at a certain level culturally. And you kind of become associated with the place and the place becomes associated with you. And that's probably more true for Prince and Minnesota than probably not any artist I can think of, but definitely in the top 5 or 10 artists that I could think of associated with a place. It's got to be this. And that's a really powerful statement when you consider how few black people live in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Right? And for like one of the, if not the most iconic person from that state be black is so significant, you know? Land of 10,000 Lakes. Lisa Wente, thank you. Cherrywood also chimed in. 10,000 lakes. So I'm glad that y'all confirmed that because that was kind of my impression. I thought that, the state was kind of, a lot of waves going on. I thought it was, because they're all different, I felt like it was kind of the 10,000 lakes reference. So yeah, that all lines up for me.
Yeah, when Prince was talking about working on his memoir that unfortunately he wasn't able to finish, he was thinking about opening it with the Super Bowl, and he said like getting to that point. So when I look at this quilt, I think about, him growing up and having this dream and then making it to the Super Bowl. It's just kind of extraordinary. Very few people get to do that.
Yeah. Something that someone just pointed out is that the crown has little guitars on it. And that's certainly one way to interpret that. I think that's a fair interpretation.
Yeah, good eye.
Yeah, we got to look at 75 quilts so we don't catch every detail. But thank you. So I'm going to whip around. I want to show them the books that we have on display. So I'm going to have you come around this way. We got to maintain that social distance. So if you were here, one of the things that you would be able to kind of look at on display is a couple of picture books that I own that we put out. And just give you a little shot there. And Erica, what book is this from? Who's the photographer?
Oh,
Nicholas.
You're putting me to the test.
That's okay. We'll just show him.
Yeah, just cheat.
Booyah! Randy St. Nicholas.
There we go. That's
all right. That's the book in question. These are the ones that I decided to display in this room. And then the other book, also by a famous Prince photographer, one of his earliest ones, Alan Beaulieu, right? Prince Before the Rain. And it was really important to me to set it out to this particular picture. You know the story here, of course.
There's the Telecaster, by the way.
But this is taken from the concert where Prince was opening for the Rolling Stones. And people in the audience, this is before Prince was Prince, right? This is like Dirty Mind, Prince, right? Kind of controversy Prince. And this audience at the Rolling Stone concert hated him. They booed him. They threw stuff on the stage. You can see stuff on the stage. And And that look on his face is like, I mean, in the moment, he's just feeling extreme dejection. But he turns that into fuel that creates the Prince that we know and becomes worthy of this entire display that you see today. So let's go back to the quilts. We're on the next wall now. Boom. So this first one is Vinyl Prints by Barb Zalesnik out of Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. Very nice. I'm going to pick up the pace here because we got a lot of stuff to look at. Mm-hmm. And we have a little treat that we'll announce at the end anyway. Now this next one is one of my favorites. This is Prince's Legacy by Terry Bond out of Baxter, Minnesota. And this quilt is a prize winner. It's the first of 3 prize winners that you will see in the exhibit tonight. The Prince Cherrywood Challenge 2018 First Avenue choice. Which makes sense because First Avenue is the subject, right? And I love First Avenue as a club. I'd been there a couple of times actually. The first time I was there performing poetry at a National Poetry Slam back in like 2001 or 2002. Mm-hmm. But then I got to go get a proper tour and get to see every inch of it basically a couple of years ago during the celebration. And that was an amazing tour. Erica, you were on that tour.
I was. And later that night there was a dance party and we got to hear Purple Rain with everybody singing, like a packed club. And it was just a really, really special moment.
It was really dope to hear the songs that were recorded in that room, you know. It was great. Hundreds of people packed in there. And then the one underneath here is also kind of a First Avenue one. It's So Many Memories by Megan Kamrath out of Burlingame, California.
And this time, these notes, they really are like the accurate rhythm of the song.
I never meant to cause you any sorrow. I never meant to cause you any pain. Oh, also, there's a motorcycle in this one. You should know that one of the motorcycles that they used for the film is in First Avenue, but it's in the back. It's not on public display. But if you take the tour, they'll show it to you. Oh, also, I'm going to go back to this previous one real quick. You'll see the Prince star there. If you go to First Avenue, you'll see the building is covered in stars outside, painted stars, featuring people who have played there, who have gone on to note. But the Prince star is covered in gold leaf now. It's the only one that's just not a white star. All right, next panel. This is going to be like the Little Red Corvette panel.
Yes.
So the first one here is Minneapolis Ghost Driver. There's no one behind the wheel. This is by Diane Mesercore out of Hollister, California.
Oh, yep, that's right.
Mm-hmm. The next one is Road to Paisley Park by Florin Ramsey out of Los Angeles, California.
See a graffiti bridge there.
Yes, which is and is not a real thing when you go to Paisley Park, right? If you want to get to Paisley Park, well, at least it used to be, if you wanted to get to Paisley Park, you had to go to the public park across the street and go through this underground tunnel. It was a bridge, and it had been since 2016 covered in graffiti of Prince. The next one is Little Red Corvette. It's literally little. You know the song, you know what's going on here. This is by Suzanne Gilbride out of Cypress, Texas. Next panel. This one's called Pyconic by Susan Vogel out of Bar Zug, Switzerland.
I like your pronunciation there. Good job.
I mean, let's hope it's right. Cherrywood mentioned on an earlier one that thread painting was the name of the technique. I apologize. We're not really seeing the comments as we go because we're looking at the quilts. And you guys are flying by pretty fast, but we'll try to catch up when we can. I want to go to the detail on this one because it doesn't look very princey from the back, but when you get up on it, the symbolism starts to pop, right? So the paisley, the umbrella, the lips, the dove, the symbol, dove, raspberry, so on and so forth. It's great. That's a lot of fun to just look at. That's one I would want.
I would not have guessed that.
On its own merits, not because of the Prince thing, right? I like that it operates on several levels at the same time. The next one is Prince in Paisley with fireworks. This one's dope.
I love this.
What?
All of the symbolism, I mean, between the dove and the paisley and the one eye, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
And then this is Prince and Paisley by Cindy Myers out of Ontario, California. Get in there a little bit. Oh, Cherry would mention that in the previous quilt, those are record albums. Okay, going back down. Last one on this panel. Boom. This is one of your favorites, yes?
Yes.
This one's very intense. You got to get it from the right angle, because if you get it too high, it looks like big brain prints. You got to hit that one head on. So this one's entitled Purple Rain by Deborah Ellenboss out of Yorba Linda, California.
And I'm always going to be, happy to see older prints because we always see him represented from like the Purple Rain era. So I was really excited to see that. And they got his ring there.
I really love the button on this one. It's great. His eyes are nice too. Little hint of bead in the eye.
Beautiful.
And the stitching, I guess, is it line stitching? The background is all raindrops. You can't see it in color, but it's all in the stitching. Yeah, I'm gonna start using these professional terms. The line stitching. All right, next panel. Oh yeah, let's go up. All right, this is Paisley's Soul by Jude Edling out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. All right. There's one thing in here that's, I think, probably the only quilt that has this reference, and I don't know if it's intentional, but it reminds me, it's the snowflakes, right? Which reminds me of the question that Prince was asked about why he still lives in Minnesota, and he's like, the cold keeps all the bad people out, right?
The first time I saw this, I didn't notice the dove here.
I'm going to zoom in on this symbol here just so you can see the level of stitching going on, like with the sparkle thread. Yeah, it's great stuff. Next one, Royal Riff by Ellen Smith out of Brainerd, Minnesota. Cherrywood mentions that this is metallic thread in this piece above. Yeah. And the next one, Remembering Prince. By Lori Allison out of Prior Lake, Minnesota.
This is really impressive. I really like the abstract quilts. You can just sit and stare at these for a long time and try to pick out everything or think about your own interpretations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely a lot more going on here than than you think.
Yeah. I have the urge to touch it because it, all of the different textures in it.
Yeah. I think that's kind of interesting too, like with quilts, art in general with quilts, is like a quilt is meant to be touched. It's meant to be covering you and keeping you warm and all of that. And, at 20 inches by 20 inches, these will not get the job done, but you sure want to.
Yeah. Laura T-Bert says that this looks like how music sounds.
And you see the phases of the moon kind of thing happening there. That was going on right at the end of his career, actually. That was some imagery that he was using.
Yeah, and you do, throughout these quilts, you do see a lot of moon imagery. And I was thinking about that, wondering how much the artist studied, or I think some of Prince's symbolism is so iconic that we kind of automatically associate it with him, whether we're like hardcore fans or not. So it's really cool to see those themes throughout the exhibit.
All right, let's go to the next panel. Boom. This is going to be like a dove panel. First one is called Symbolism by Cindy Wilson out of Elysian, Minnesota. Now the dove here has something going on in terms of the fabric or the stitching or something that I don't think we've seen in a quilt yet, at least not to this extent. It's very extensive. Cherrywood may have to tell me what's going on here, but it's pretty amazing in person. Yeah. She says layers and layers of thread. Mm. All right, the next one. Beautiful one. This is the Judge's Choice winner of the Cherrywood Challenge. This one's wild.
This is another one that you would want to spend some time with. And again, if you get the book, or they also have a poster that you can order with all of the quilts on it too. So if you weren't able to see this in person, then that might be a good alternative if you want to spend some time with them. Unfortunately, they are not for sale, but I'm glad we can do this to show you before they go back to their owners. And something I didn't see, you could see the dove, but I noticed that there's an eye, I think, at least from my interpretation, that you can see. Where you see it. Yeah, so you can see kind of the top part with the branches, and then with the pink and the dark blue and the light blue, the bottom of the eye.
So you're saying like here to here, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny, like when I was first seeing this for a while, I was like, what's with the notes? Why are the notes upside down? And then I kind of said, oh, well, it looks like a crown, Let's go to the next one. When Doves Cry. Pretty straightforward, pretty. These flowers are really nice. Next panel. Controversy. One of my favorite albums, for the record.
Really?
You know it is. Come on, man. That first side.
Yeah.
Controversy, sexuality, do me baby. In that order. I mean, that's killer, man. Anyhow, this is a great quilt. Look at all of the bead work to make the strings of the guitar. I think everybody else that had a guitar so far, if they showed strings, they were doing stitching. But Robin Perry out of Shreveport, Louisiana, decided to do beads, or right? Just like all the way up. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. Controversy. Next one. Prince the Man by Julie Bauer out of Ogden, Utah. Very nice. A little smirk on the Prince.
Very detailed
A
stitching.
lot of detail. I mean, just the detail on this one is woof. Look at that. I can't even do this and I'm floored. Cherrywood spoiled it for me. So on this guitar up here, they mentioned that the rhinestones come on a ribbon. Spoiler alert. All right.
You were picturing someone just one by one.
I was. Anyhow,
It's still impressive.
It's still impressive.
Robin.
Yeah, it's great stuff. This next one is entitled How Are You Helping by Madeline Bell out of the Woodlands in Texas. This one's got a little organizational backstory to it, is kind of what this is referencing, right? Love for One Another is the organization.
Charity organization that Prince put together.
Yeah.
And he also named his website Love for One Another back in the 90s. And as we know now, I mean, Prince was a very charitable person. And a recurring theme in his music is love and love for one another as well. And I have to give a shout out to Rachel Kayla, though, because since Prince passed away on April 21st, the 21st of every month, she tries to do something for someone. And she kind of like lives by that creed, and I think that's really impressive. And Prince has inspired a lot of his fans to do that.
Remember Rachel's name. We're going to mention her again at the end. It's great. 3 more panels before we move on. This is A Gallery of Memories by Sheila Collins out of Sunnyvale, California. This one's fun.
Yeah.
Like, Prince was always very into space, like meaning location, space. And so I like things that kind of evoke rooms and spaces and places. Prince was always trying to take you to another state, another place. So I like things that kind of situate him in that way.
We've got the reference to the 2004 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, and everyone knows the guitar solo now on While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And that's another thing that I like. Like, even if you're not a hardcore fan, there are certain high points in his career, long after Purple Rain, that everybody knows about. That, the Super Bowl, being another one. So that's really good to see.
Cleveland in the house.
Laura T-Bird says she feels like she's in Paisley Park looking at that couch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you go to Paisley Park, there are plenty of places that kind of, like, every place is kind of comfortable in its own way. Mm-hmm. You know? It's almost like every room is a mood. Mm-hmm. Even now, even though it's been, flipped around, it's like a museum, you can still tell. It's like, yeah, the Galaxy Room or whatever, even the kitchen, right, had like a couch and television in it, Anyhow, next one. This one's called Prince by Lynn Randall out of Dunlap, Iowa.
There's the moon again.
Yeah. Gonna move in here. Pop the cork on that champagne, 1999 Paisley Park, vintage. And the champagne is painted, but it has beaded spray as well in there. And a little fire in the corner. All right, moving down. This one is interesting. And I don't mean that in that way when you say it like, oh, well, the art is interesting and I don't like it. The piece is called Good Morning. And it doesn't have a lot of overt Prince reference in it. There's a couple of guitar fretboards and then like a 1999 on the side. There's one in the back of guitar, right? But there really isn't a lot of obvious Prince reference here. And then I think we were talking about this yesterday, and I kind of talked about how if you work with the title here, then this is kind of like a sunrise in a way, right? The sun is kind of coming up on this world of Prince, and that looks different in at different levels and in different ways, right? There's an almost Paisley level, there's an almost industrial level, there's some really creative stuff happening. It's just got a lot of stuff going on. And it's just really awesome to just look at and kind of transpose Prince into it, right? Yeah. Like, this operates in the way a lot of abstract art operates, where the artist says, this is my interpretation. Like, everybody has an interpretation, but this artist is like, I am going to interpret the subject in a way that allows me to express myself, but to also, make you work for it a little bit, right? Like, it's not giving it to you. But to be clear, there's a dove here. It's not obvious. You see it? It's all the pink. So this is the neck of the dove to the head and the beak, and there's the eye.
When did you pick that up, Woods?
None of your business, Thompson. But that's what I mean. You got to look at them for a while, right? We're just burning through them tonight. But if you were here, you'd have to sit here with this, which is the kind of thing I love in an art exhibit. I want it to make me sit. Anyhow, let's move on.
Little Daisy Cake said it reminds them of something that would have been in the video for Alphabet Street. And also, to answer Peach Maserati's question, yes, this exhibit was planned to be open to the public where you could actually come and walk in, but with coronavirus, that wasn't possible, so this was an alternative.
Yeah, let me speak on that real quick. So, yeah, we were going to have, this was already on the calendar, this exhibit, and it was going to happen this week, right? But with everything going down, the question came up, about a month ago, I'd say. It was like, well, are we still going to do this? And at that point, everybody and their mama wasn't trying to do everything online. They were having meetings online, they were working online, but everybody hadn't quite figured out how to do art online. And I had already done a virtual tour of the Columbus Museum of Art, so I kind of was like, well, I don't see why we can't do that here in a place that I own, And so, but when we were going to do this originally, it was going to be full-blown opening. It was going to be refreshments and music. We were planning like a week of events because this was only going to be up for a week. Now it's only going to be up for a day, right? Basically. So it was always going to happen. It's just now it's happening this way. The next panel, Purple Rain. It's a riff on the movie poster.
Apollonia there, a motorcycle.
Apples. And I'm going to move in on this a little bit because while Apollonia is pretty flat in terms of texture and stitching, the motorcycle is not. Andrea asked, is the last abstract from a Minnesota artist? No, they're from California. Look at the hair. That's like straight yarn. That's like Prince with naps, yo. That's Black Prince. Sherry moaning out of Bruton, Minnesota. We need to talk. I love it. And look at all that geometry in his face. It's great. Next one, Prince of Music by Carrie Finn out of West Fargo, North Dakota. And now again, we have sheet music, but this music's right for Purple Rain. Yep, that's right. It's great. Little hint in the eyes. Really gives it depth without even trying. Stuff. This one down here is Virtuoso by Shelley. Is it Ricky? Richie maybe? Richie out of Apple Valley, Minnesota. This one's fun. Virtuoso. So we have numerous instruments, right? Technically, we have a bass, right? It says 4 strings.
He played bass, though.
I know. Yeah, no doubt. And he sang, and he played drums, and he played piano. And the keys, you can't tell, but if you get right up on it, the black keys have song titles stitched into them. Great. Kiss, 1999, Pop Life, Delirious, Purple Rain, Doves Cry, Sign of Times, I Would Die For You, Let's Go Crazy, Diamonds and Pearls, Raspberry Beret, Wanna Be a Lover, Little Red Corvette.
I'm glad we got a 90s song in there.
And I must go in on the Prince right here, because there's some detail work in it that's really fly, too. A nice extra touch. And that drum head's wild. Right? A lot of work there. 3D doves popping off the quilt. Popping. With just a touch of paint. It's good stuff. In the last panel on the first floor here we go. This one's called Still Weeping. This is why I made it last.
Yeah.
Yeah. The crying eyes. Yeah. This is by Mary Kay Davis out of California. This next one is Paisley Prince. Woo. By Vicki Bedell out of Lincoln, Nebraska. We got to talk about this one. I mean, the Paisley is overwhelming. It's awesomely it's awe is what it is. And the symbol has so much beadwork going on. That's amazing. I am going to bring you back down to a quilt that we saw before on this previous panel. Cherrywood wants to point out that the bottom of the quilt you can't really tell from above, but if you really get down, you can see that the bottom of the quilt curves with the board. Nice extra touch. All right, and then back to this last panel. Again, paisley prints, amazing. Right, look at that, that's just dope. Can you imagine a whole full-size body quilt like that? Ugh. And the last quilt on the first floor, Purple Rain. You know why I keep saying it like that?
Why?
From that video where he played live. Well, it's really a recording.
Oh.
He played live at some little one-night thing, and it was a Rolling Stones cover. And at the end of it, he starts talking, and some guy yells out, "Purple Rain!" And he talks about walking through the airport, and somebody yells out, "Purple Rain!" And him saying it like that is the funniest thing ever. Anyhow, this quilt, Purple Rain by Joy Palmer out of San Jose, it's very nice. The rain is all beads, right? Hanging beads, right? So like if you move this quilt, those raindrops move. And that is the last quilt in this half of the exhibit. So let's take a walk, shall we? All right, Erica, this is going to be your half, so I'll let you lead.
All right, we're about to go upstairs, and we'll stop here just for a second, just some decor. Oh, look who's at the top of the steps to greet us. And he brought some of his friends.
So, Christopher Tracy. So, this is not a quilt, but this is a piece I own. It's a woodcut piece, woodcut and paint by Roger Kent Grossweiler. He's a Columbus artist who works primarily in woodcuts. And I mention that because before we get into the gallery, bam! What? So Kent was supposed to do an exhibit of art here in Columbus at a place called Glean, a great store in the Short North area. And he wasn't able to put that exhibit on because Corona.
Yeah.
And so we are very fortunate and blessed that he let us use some of the pieces that he was going to put in that exhibit as a huge Prince fan. A couple of these are not for sale. I already bought them. I already got them, just so you know. So yeah, but I had to show you that because they're dope.
And Ken, if you're listening, Prince fans will make you a very wealthy person.
He's here.
Hey, Ken.
Yeah, so Prince fans, if you're interested in Kent's woodcuts, I'm going to put my hand next to one so you can kind of get the size, right? Right? I'm trying to talk Kent into doing the whole band of the time. So you got Jesse and Morris.
Yes, Peach Maserati, when this is over, we will make sure to drop his name in the comments and his social media links and website, everything, so you can get in touch with him.
Yeah, we'll provide links for everything that you need, to Cherrywood, to Kent, to everything that we need to let you know about. We will do that. But now, let's get properly into the second part of the exhibit. Do you need to reset your live?
Not yet.
Okay, let's do this. You want to start it anyway? Okay, let's go.
So this is just an overview of the second floor. Sun coming in here, but we will start here in this corner. So first we have Jenny Kornbaum out of Little Falls, Minnesota. And I think I'm gonna go do a quick overview of the whole panel and then focus in on one, I think. So next we have Debbie Grunmeyer out of Lakewood, Colorado. Moonbeams over Minneapolis. The first one was simply titled Prince. But down here, we've got Betsy Shannon out of Minneapolis, and her piece is called Shining On. And this is one of my favorite quilts in the whole exhibit. It's just really exquisite, detailed work, especially the hair.
It's wild.
Right, with all of that beading there. Beautiful, and maybe Cherrywood can chime in and let us know exactly how this was done. But it's just really beautiful, and it's based off of a photograph that the legendary photographer Herb Ritts took of Prince in the early 90s. Yeah, and so some of the well, all of the participants rather, they were allowed to use other colors besides the Prince bundle palette, but they were limited into how much they could use. So I really like what she did with the pink here. All right, moving on. This is the symbol panel. Well, we named it that, but the symbol featured very prominently. And if we go to the first one, which is by Robin Koenig out of Saratoga, California. I love how she included different symbols. When you get up close, I mean, you see the Corvette and the dove and the heart, and to get through this thing called life.
Real quick, Cherrywood is telling me that on the previous one, Shining On,
yes,
that was the artist's first attempt to bead onto quilt.
Really?
So they did that one at a time.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. So now you can finally think about your vision of someone sitting there beading. And I'm actually going to reset my live. So Scott, I do have a question. Talk to us about how you feel about the symbol. Maybe take us back to when you first changed his name and your reaction. And then maybe philosophically what you think about the symbol, and then I'll chime in after.
Okay. So while Erica resets her live, I will mention that, you know, I'm a Prince fan from very early on. And so by the time he got to changing his name, I think personally, I felt what it was about like right away. Like I'm like, okay, this is like a business thing. I know he's selling it as spiritual, and I'm not saying that it wasn't on any level, but it definitely was a tool. It was, again, like I mentioned downstairs, an instance in which Prince really kind of militarized reinvention, right? So if you tried to beat Prince at something, it had like business, he would just shut everything down and turn it into something else. And the symbol was definitely a step in that direction. But being Prince, you know, he could have just changed his name. But the symbol just took everything to a whole nother level, and it operates on several levels as well.
Yeah, now that I'm back up and running.
Welcome back, Erica.
Thank you. So yeah, I mean, a lot of us probably know that the symbol is a fusion of the male and the female sex symbols. And in Prince's, when Prince got married the first time, he did...
shade.
That wasn't shade, it was just fact. He did this great wedding program, and he called the symbol the perfect love. You know, if you think about unity between the two parts. And there's a lot of unity in here. In terms of spirituality, I see it as a union of his Western and Eastern beliefs. So when he changed his name, he spoke about hearing a voice that told him to do that. And he kind of had to grapple with whether that was the voice of God or his inner voice. And he would sometimes describe it as the voice of God. He would sometimes just say spirit. And he would describe it as enlightenment. So then you have the Eastern side, but then when he would go back and talk about God in the Western sense, he described it that way too. And, you know, it was about artistic freedom in that he was able to record using the symbol independent of Warner Brothers. But then it was also spiritual freedom in the sense that he would say it freed him from his ego. And he didn't have to think like Prince anymore. He didn't have to worry about maintaining a certain level of fame. He said he was more concerned about his spiritual well-being. So there's a lot going on with the name change. People just kind of thought he was crazy, or people just focus now on the business aspects of it, but there's a lot going on spiritually as well. The second one I really, really like. It's by Vicki Hearn out of Post Falls, Idaho, and it's called Shattered Dreams, but it really has a stained glass effect.
Yeah.
The one at the bottom is a little bit more abstract. It is also called Shattered, and it's by Clark Johnson out of Houston, Texas. Is that our first guy in the exhibit, maybe?
I tried not to assume.
That's a good thing to do.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Rachel Kayla is also talking about some of the other components of the symbol. And it's interesting in talking to the designer, and she's kind of grappling with how much to share about all of the additional components, because Prince wanted to maintain a certain level of mystery. And so I think as time goes on, she might reveal some more of that, but she's still kind of thinking through that.
Cool.
So moving on to this next one, just to give you an overview of the double panel here. But the first one I like because it's older prints. And if we look at the top one, it's like composite art. And so it's by Enid. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. Scott, you're welcome to try.
I'm good. I think it's Weitzelbaum.
There you go. But Enid is out of Rochester, Minnesota, and it's called Pixelated.
And you always want to kind of get in on a pixelated one to really see what's going on. And the light part is obvious, but the dark part is really compelling as well, because the pixels go away, right? It's like, oh, now it's just thread. Fabric. It's great.
Okay, the next one here, it is by Trish Morris Please out of Nevada City, California, and it's called Purple Essence. And I really like how it's focused on his eye there. Little beadwork on the ear with Prince's famous earring that he always wore.
Mm.
Some feathers at the top here.
Cherrywood says that in the previous one, the pixelated one, that the artist ironed each dot and then stitched over the top.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
This bottom one here, I love because at first, I mean, you think it's older Prince, but if you really look into the face, it reminds me of a young Prince. And it kind of, I don't know if you guys saw that show Tales from the Tour Bus, but they depicted like
the cartoon.
They depicted Prince like this. It was a really funny moment, and it reminds me of that as well. And this is by Rhonda Denny out of Cannon City, Colorado, and it's simply titled Prince. You see the cymbal there, cymbal guitar in the corner. But I really like what they did with the shading, how they utilized the different shades in the Prince bundle.
Mm-hmm. And this one's interesting too, because I'm going to get in close here. Like on the hat band, like where you see differences in the color, that is largely fabric with a little bit, but then in the face, it's painting. Not a lot, but the highlights are painted. Yeah.
Okay, moving to this next one. I love this one at the top.
Too.
Oh my God, it's so abstract and beautiful with the dove. And it's by Crystal Scruggs Applegate out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. And it's called Into the Night. Scott, why do you like this one so much?
The contrast. The dove is simple, but not. And then the way that the reflection is done is really smart. And I don't want to put a cultural thing on it, but you know, if you're out of Albuquerque, these are the kind of colors that you will see in a lot of the art out of that area. So it all just kind of works for me. And I love how, like, you know, the dove is, you know, kind of it's representational, but the reflection is not. You know, the cubist reflection. It's great. And then all of it is married with this clear looping, almost paisley like looping. You know, it's just a study in contrast. I love it. Love it.
Now, if you thought that had a lot going on,
Yeah.
this one you really have to spend some time with. I'll just kind of let it sit here to give you an overview before we go in. But this one is by Judy Beskel of College Station, Texas, and it's called Royalty. And you can see the glitter and the shine on it. But again, just so much. It's like, I don't even know where to begin. Of course, you have the dove and the guitar and a dolphin there, pyramids, a castle, which could represent Paisley Park. But also, I really love the flower. I like to think it's the lotus flower, which was really important to Prince in his music and his imagery. And the lotus flower is a Hindu symbol for transcendence or purity. And again, that's something that he referenced when you think about spirituality and some of the things in his music. Oh, look at that ring. It's definitely a lot to take in. I know, Scott, we talked about this one. How are you feeling about it after spending some time with it?
I dig it. I really wanted that castle to be like an Ice Cream Castles reference.
Maybe.
But nah, it's called Royalty, so I'm pretty sure that's just pretty much what it means.
It's beautiful. And according to Cherrywood, the demographic of artists in the quilting community may not have been lifelong Prince fans, but they did their homework, so you never know, Prince.
You never know.
Prince. I called you Prince.
That's fair. That's okay. I'll take it. I'm going to take that. Here's hoping it's an Ice Cream Castle. Now it's an Ice Cream Castle reference.
Yeah. Okay, moving to the bottom one here. It is called When Doves Cry in the Purple Rain, and it's by Victoria Thompson out of Irving, Texas. simple, beautiful, like the contrast in the sky. Got the dove and the symbol there.
Yeah, and the dove really pops because it's like a whole nother thing going on. It's like, I believe it's paper or like cardstock. Carrying an olive branch, by the way. Go out, Irving, Texas.
Okay, moving to this back wall here. Just a quick overview.
Let's not skip the bling.
Ah, yes.
So whenever I do an art exhibit here at Streetlight Guild, I'm always trying to level stuff up. I like things that are tactile and adding elements. And so we added little things here and there to this exhibit. And we wanted this second floor gallery to feel very much, like I said, like a room. And so this is just some of the records that, are owned, I own, and of course his almost autobiography. But I want to mention this synthesizer in the back. It's a Yamaha DX7. That's an actual keyboard that Prince would have used in the 80s. Mostly everybody was using a DX7. And they're not simple like keyboards now. You couldn't just hit something and a sound come out. You had to program a DX7. So Prince had to be a little bit of a fiddler, to kind of create the patches and stuff to create some of the sounds for that music. Let's go on.
Okay, now. So the first one here, I love the contrast of the purple and the pink. It is Murasaki I really don't want to butcher
Murasaki.
Murasaki.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to butcher this person's name, but they're out of Tokyo, Japan.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say Mayuki Humphreys.
Mm. You get in close to see the detail here.
Like that. That is beautiful. And it's real faint. Like right now in my phone, it looks really obvious. But, it's not. When you see it in person, it's real faint. Cherrywood says, there's a story to this one. It was lost in customs for so long that Mayuki thought it was gone forever.
Oh, no.
She created a second one just in case it did not make it in time for judging.
Cherrywood, you're welcome to pass that along. The second one, just kidding.
Yeah, right. Columbus will take that second one off your hands.
Wow. And I love that you got participants as far away as Japan. That's wonderful. The second one here is called Purple Love. And it's out of the Netherlands. Wow, okay, another international participant. Oh, I love it.
Those doves are practically anatomically correct. Right? It's like an actual dove on the quilt, almost.
Yeah, I want to go back to the first one. One of our viewers just really wanted to highlight the ear clip and the detail on that with the rhinestones. Okay, down here we have Graffiti Bridge. I'm probably the only Prince fan who likes this movie.
That's not entirely true.
Okay, one of three.
In the room, that's true.
But I love the detail on this. You see the spray can in his face and bridge written there. And it's by Eremika Brown out of McKinney, Texas. And it's simply called Graffiti Bridge. This movie, I mean, although it flopped, it was very, I mean, you know, it was very important to Prince spiritually. It had a very spiritual message to it. And the thing that I admire about him, at least, you know, according to folks who worked with him, is he was kind of able to move past those disappointments pretty quickly and look toward the next project, which he was already working on before the previous project was done. But yeah, it's an important movie, if not popular, in his career.
And I really appreciate how the artist here has gone all in on the font, right? Like that is a bomber font, you know? I appreciate that.
Okay, moving on. So we have unofficially titled this the Paisley panel. A lot of color here. It's really pretty to just take it in from afar, but if we get in close here, The Jewel of Paisley Park by Heidi Lund out of Bremerton, Washington. It's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Paisley has the hippie, the free love, the sexual freedom connotations, and those were themes that were very present in a lot of Prince's early music, Uptown, Party Up, things like that. And I love the beading on the trees. And this next one, we've got the yin and the yang and the flowers. It's by Lori Lyle of Gardnerville, Nevada. Juxtaposition of Paisley. So yeah, we were talking about that earlier with the symbol, all of the juxtaposition, all of the contradictions, all of the uniting of different ideas in Prince's music and imagery.
The literal yin and yang.
Yes. Lots of detail here in the stitching. Oh, we've got some Graffiti Bridge fans in the comments. I love it.
They will make themselves known.
Yes.
Cherrywood says, I purposely grouped the 3 quilts together on the black felt banners to tell a story. The quilts are pinned from the back with safety pins to protect all the work on the front. Which I can tell you was heck trying to navigate. I was like, none of these pins can pop out.
Yeah, I really appreciate the work that Cherrywood did in grouping these, because we spent a lot of time just trying to figure out where to hang the panels next to each other, but I can't imagine trying to pin the quilts together this way, so kudos to you. At the bottom here, a lot going on, lots of beautiful color, and the artist is Elizabeth Holek, possibly, out of Minnetrista, Minnesota. And the title is Seemingly Impossible Range of Human Experience. Wow.
Yeah. Lot going on here, man.
And I love that title so much, just the range of human experience, because there's so much going on in Prince's music. And I feel like his music really tackles the range of human experience, from sexuality to spirituality to politics to race, everything. So I think that's a really proper title here. Shout
out to the dove wearing a crucifix.
Oh!
I mean, that's pimping.
Which,
it's like, yeah, it's all about flowers, baby, but really.
And Prince wore a crucifix or two in his day, too.
To say the least, yes. In the shower. Naked.
Oh, yeah. lot of people had that poster on their walls.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I want to take a step back here at this back wall. And without going horizontal, it might be a little hard for me to capture, so I'll just pan. But when we first put this up, I just had to stand back and look at it for a while, but I can't look at it for too long because I get emotional. It's just so overwhelming. It's beautiful and overwhelming, and it has so many components of his life and music. It's very impressive.
Let's get in there.
Well, I'll let you talk about your bling. Is that what you called it?
There's not much else to add here. I do have a couple of choice bootlegs, right, for those of you who are into that. This was back when there was no internet and you had to go to record fairs and really dig in the bins to get your bootlegs, and they were on vinyl. So this one, Prince Royal Jewels, is a treasured bootleg of mine. You Belong to Prince is a live Houston concert. I love that. There's an LA concert from '89. But this was back out and they were still pretty expensive. But anyhow, enough about that.
Yeah.
Back to the quilts.
Well, I mean, though, Peach Maserati said he or they love the extra props. Please zoom in on those, which we did. So
Oh, yay.
someone appreciates that. No, it's great. It's a great touch. Okay, yes. The eye. So we'll get in here first with the keyboard. The Iconic Man. It's by Rebecca. I'm not sure how to pronounce Rebecca's last name.
Maybe Hugdell?
Mm-hmm. Out of New Braunfels, Texas. And I love this. I mean, I think, a lot of people associate Prince with his third eye imagery, with the sunglasses and the eyes from the 1999 cover and his eye jewelry. But he was very into talking about the third eye, which is a concept of perception beyond ordinary sight and, located on the forehead. And you can see that he has a song called Third Eye. But he was someone who seemed very intuitive, and it's just really exquisite. And I just like looking at it and thinking about all of the themes in his music.
And Prince was extremely hotep, and so third eye is like day 3 hotep theory. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to get that in right now. I love it. This is the piano panel.
Yes. First Avenue here. And this is by Beverly Honeycutt from Bloomington, Minnesota. There's music in the air. Awesome. And then below, I really like this one with the little Prince image from behind. But this one is by Barbara Mendelsberg from Inglewood, Colorado. The Music Lives On. And if you can see, there's some more interesting hair there.
Yeah.
I like that little touch.
He's the Little Richard of this time.
What did Little Richard say? I'd like to believe that Prince was me. I can't remember what he said.
And then he says, he's the Little Richard of this time. I think that was at the Purple Rain
premiere. MTV premiere. Yeah. And then Eddie Murphy was standing right there kind of mocking Little Richard. I love the detail on the music notes.
Once again, the heads of the notes are beads. Staffs are stitched, but the notes themselves are beads.
Rachel Kayla says, I met a Mason who told me Prince was esoteric as F. He was. All right, let's go to the next panel here. More music notes. I love the spotlight and the rain. This is by Bette Sutton out of Centennial, Colorado. Hidden in the Notes. I love that title too.
The way that they have song titles lined up on the left and music staves running out makes me wonder if they're matched. I didn't take the time to check, but I will when we're done.
Yeah. Love that.
The notes are painted.
All right, moving on to the second one. Whoa. Lots of detail on the pink there too. This is by Marilyn Fromhers of Calamessa, California, in the Spotlight Collage. Lots of detail here with the pearls. We've got a string of pearls there.
So Marilyn went out. That's probably diamonds and pearls, by the way. Mm-hmm. But Marilyn does something on this quilt that I don't think I know I haven't seen on any other quilt. And it's amazing. And it's these fades, right? These really masterful fades. And in the spotlights, it's painted, right? But down here in the paisley portion, it's just stitches. So Marilyn has used different stitching color for the same fade effect. It's in person, it's really stunning. When you see it now, you catch every detail because the camera doesn't lie. But in person, your eye is doing different work than a camera does. And so what the camera lays bare, the eye does not. There's optical illusions happening in person when you step back and you're really kind of looking at it. So you can kind of see what the intent is, but when you're in person, this quilt smacks you in the face with that kind of effect. Stenciling is what Cherrywood is saying.
And I love the detail here. Again, it reminds me of moons.
Mm-hmm. Or pearls, right? If you remember the video, it has like that rain of pearls.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Dun, 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 dun.
Okay. Here at the bottom, another Super Bowl reference.
But this is like the real.
What do you mean by that?
Because look at the title.
Yes. Purple Rain. What is that Super Bowl number?
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, good.
I'm still boycotting the NFL.
Jennifer Ball out of Wilsonville, Oregon. Oh man, look at the detail here. Jennifer has the Super Bowl number stitched again in his symbol.
Do-rag prints.
Yeah. So I do want to talk about that a little bit.
About the do-rag?
Yes, about the do-rag.
Oh,
and we've seen it throughout the exhibit, and we'll see it again shortly here. And I wrote about this a little bit. Just seeing him on that great stage wearing the do-rag, it was such an important symbol of Blackness to me. And it's not the first time he wore it, but it just really hit me that I had that representation as a Black person there on the Super Bowl. And Scott, we were talking about this too, like just about all of the levels of the do-rag. And then I think you mentioned like the utilitarian aspect of it. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Ooh, that was a while ago.
Sorry to put you on the spot, but I thought an important point?
Well, as I recall, I was making a point about how, a lot of people, when they talk about do-rags, they talk about the aesthetic of it. And when you see black folks wearing it, yeah, there's an aesthetic to it, but it is largely utilitarian, right? Mm-hmm. It serves a purpose. It's not just a fashion statement, if it's ever a fashion statement for a particular person. It is what must be done, mm-hmm. right? You got to put that on to go do anything. Mm-hmm. It's basically like operating in the way, a ball cap might or something like that. But a do-rag serves multiple purposes at the same time. It's never just hiding the hair. It's never just a statement. It's always doing multiple things. The do-rag is deep.
Yeah, and Prince was very, people apply that word magic to him, which he said he did not like. But he was very utilitarian too. And he talked a little bit about this in his memoir about the two sides of him and how his parents influenced him. So his father was very orderly and strict, and his mother was more spontaneous. And Prince was kind of grappling with that tension within him his whole life. So I think that's something that's important to note. Also, what's cool about the Super Bowl too are the songs that he chose to do. So he did Proud Mary, and he did All Along the Watchtower, the Hendrix version. And that, to me, was taking a piece of the people who came before him and inspired him and what he dreamed of as a childhood and bringing that to one of the greatest stages in the world. So it was a profound performance. For a lot of people, it was cool and entertaining, but it just was working on so many other levels for me and for a lot of fans. But before we move on, I do also want to point out the difference in texture here with the purple and the black. That is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Somebody mentioned we all need do-rags if they don't open the salon soon.
Oh, well. May 15th, apparently, here in Ohio. So, the next one is by Nancy Kazi out of Sacramento, California, The Illusion of Prince. Love the blue and the purple there. That makes me, again, I'm going to put you on the spot again, Scott.
Yeah.
With the illusion of Prince, because we talk a lot about his image mm-hmm. and the image that he wanted to put out there. So can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because I think we kind of disagree on some aspects of whether his image is truly what he is, whether or not that's true. And I think you ended up falling on his image is not always a reflection of who he really is.
Well, his image is never serving one purpose, is my base point, mm-hmm. which is, yes, he uses image to sell records, but he also uses image to control. He uses image to narrate. He uses image in ways that people kind of refer to it different ways now, like I said, branding or whatever, but Prince uses image in a way that really controlled the world around him too. When people met Prince, half of it would be about the music that they love, but half of it would be about this person that they have conjured in their minds, and which he has purposefully, very purposefully, without a marketing team, without direction from the label, he has decided this is going to be the image. And then a year later, he would change it. And then a year after that, he would change it. And so he becomes this, his image is mercurial, right? It's like you could never pin him down. And we know that from day one, that was a really big thing for him. He did not want to be pinned down. And he used not only his music to do that, but image itself. Mm. So the minute you thought he was a pretty boy, he would change it. The minute you thought he was straight, he would change it. The minute you thought he was nasty, he would change it. And so image was just a tool in the toolbox. It was like a guitar to him.
Mm. Okay. Moving down to the second. This one makes me sad. And just like that, he was gone.
Yeah.
And The Beat Goes On is the title. And it's by Pamela Toombs out of Turlock, California. I love the earring.
Mm.
And then down below, this is one of my favorites. And it's just so beautiful. In My Dreams by Sue Geese out of Custer, South Dakota. This is wonderful.
Why do you like it?
Well, I think it's another Black prince. I mean, he's clearly, you can clearly see his ethnicity here, reflected here. But with the rain and the keyboards going up almost like a stairway to heaven, it's gorgeous. And the color contrast on his face.
It's a very moody prince.
Yeah.
Very evocative, right? It has detail where it doesn't have to have it. And I love how, it's hard to tell from behind because it just looks black, but his hair, which is the same black as what's behind him, is very different in texture. It's the stitching is what changes it, right? There's threading in the hair, and then there's all this other stitching to create the circular background. It's a nice detail. And it's a very sad piece.
Yeah.
I guess, in theory, if you just go from the title, it's supposed to maybe suggest that he's asleep and dreaming, but in 2020, it just seems sad.
Okay, moving on. Another interpretation of the Herb Ritz photo session. The Prince of Purple by Penny Hurst out of Fresno, Texas. Yep. I love the orange and the purple. The one, Scott, you look like you're focused on something there.
I just like to show where things look like they may be painted. They're not, they're fabric. It's all layered.
Do you have a favorite image of Prince in terms of era?
Yeah.
What? Parade?
The parade.
I knew it. I knew
it. Followed in quick succession by the 1999 era. I mean, there's a reason. It should be 1999 all the time. I don't care who you are, because it's such a powerful. It was such a powerful design on his part that it completely launched his career and our understanding of it. It's not a coincidence that most of these reflect that era, Yeah. Even for people who didn't know him, that's what they went to. Trench coat, shiny, almost militaristic, but also a little fluffy and frilly. Just all these contradictions, just full of contradictions. His band is full of contradictions. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is another Super Bowl Prince here with the do-rag prominent and purple.
This is a great one.
And this is by Nita Vano of Ogden, Utah. And it's called Minnesota Royalty. Why do you say this is a great one?
It just is. They made great decisions on the face, I thought, artistic decisions. They did a lot with very little. There's only maybe 10 pieces, 12 pieces of fabric in the face with almost no obvious stitching. Those are really smart choices. Especially when you look at some of the ones that we've seen and maybe one more that we're about to see. And this fabric is dope. Like, as curators, we really tried not to touch the work, right? But I really wanted to. And this one is one of the ones that I really wanted to touch because it really has this velvety quality to it. Cherrywood's got some nice stuff. Little leopard strap.
Okay, moving on to the next one. That's Scott.
What?
Do you want me to put you out there like that or not?
Hey man, it's all good.
He said this kind of reminds him of Tupac.
It's Tupac Prince.
And I can see it with the way that the do-rag is styled with the paisley, which is dope, and the contrast on the face is awesome too. I like how they use the purple and the peach and the white instead of the browns that you saw in the one above it. But this is by Cindy Thompson out of Chowchilla, California, and it's called Raining Prince. I really love the face. Like, once I get past, like, looking at the hair and thinking about Tupac, the face really, really draws me in. And like you said, really smart choices there.
Mm-hmm.
I like the collar, too.
Yeah, so there's kind of a Harlequin quality to the collar,
Yeah.
fashion-wise, which is interesting.
And I slightly changed the top of it in terms of the shade of purple.
Mm-hmm.
This is really cool. Okay, last panel on this wall. This is another gorgeous, gorgeous one. And it's Lisa Minch out of Prior Lake, Minnesota. And this one is Raining Purple. I just love all the placement of the raindrops, but especially the reflection.
And this is a time where I'm really kind of kicking myself because I meant to take a note on what this reminded me of artistically. And I can't remember the artist's name, but it's the artist who did a lot of the Beatles work around that Yellow Submarine time. And this kind of has a kind of a quality like it. I wish I remembered his name. Maybe I'll post it if I remember to do that.
And again, like you said, where you think it's they achieve this with paint or with fabric, again, it's really interesting once you get in there to see how they did it.
Yeah, this one is not a choice in fabric. This is a choice in thread.
Mm.
Sometimes they do it with fabric, sometimes they do it with thread.
I wonder how long this one took.
Oof.
Okay, moving on to the next one. Simple profile. This is by Sandra Hankins out of Menifee, California. Gone Too Soon.
And this is the one I was thinking of from the last panel where I was talking about how in Minnesota royalty, the face is kind of, very little goes a long way in terms of technique. Well, this one has all of the work, right?
Mm-hmm.
This prince caught all that work.
Yeah, look at the detail on the lips. Wow. And the eyes. And the ear, the different choices that they made there.
Like there's some painting going on here.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like from afar.
Or dyeing. I don't know if it's paint or dye.
Yeah, once you get in really close and spend some time with it, it's that more impressive.
And this one has some interesting shape choices as well that would be unnecessary, right? Like in the hair. Like these little curls in the hair, the circles. That's not necessary, especially from afar. But it secretly works in your eye, and it's doing something you're not necessarily cognizant of until you get up on it and you're going, someone made a decision here, to have that effect.
And now, like, my eyes are being drawn to the top of it here with this lighter purple stitching with the triangles or pyramids.
And at the bottom, again, don't need to do it, decided to do it. And taken as a whole, it just operates somewhere in the back of your head. You know something's going on. It's dope.
Okay, last panel on this wall. One of my favorites. Prince Remembered by Penny Barger out of Ripon, California. Wow. So just starting with the hair. As the purple and black and the shapes, the detail here. It's beautiful.
I've always liked this picture of Prince with the mirror glasses.
Why?
It was a dope picture. It's always been a dope picture. You don't know what he's thinking. You don't know what he's seeing. You can't look into his eye. It's just a dope picture. It always has been.
Love the symbol there. And I mean, over the years, the symbol went through many different shapes before he arrived at what he wanted in '93 when he changed his name. So it's kind of cool to think about that and to go back and look at how it evolved over time. And another thing I do want to say about the symbol is just how it allows him to live forever. Like, he'll live forever through his music, but he'll live forever through the symbol too. And I don't know if he was thinking about that when he changed his name. Probably. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah. It's just because the moment that you see it, you know it represents Prince. And I think 100 years from now, people will still know that. And that's just part of his genius to have the foresight.
Well, it's funny, when we were talking about image earlier, my impression has never been that Prince created an image to throw it away. You know what I'm saying? Like, he always wanted them to last, even if he knew he was always on to the next thing, or there would be a next thing. I think he always created an image to stay. I think he was always leaving those messages behind, because the images aren't just pictures, right? They're not just colors. They're not just poses. They're messages. He's conveying value through every image, which is why his control of his image was so fierce, right? If you just shoot him on the street with a camera, or if you're allowed to come to concerts and shoot pictures of him, he can't control that. And so, there's a legacy piece here going on, and there's just so many things happening with that decision. It looks like control, and it is, but it has a purpose, because all image has message, and his especially so.
Yeah. Okay, we actually have one more panel that you might have caught a glimpse of. The very last one. Just want to take it all in first. So starting at the top, we have the state of Minnesota again. This is by Patricia Von Arx out of Burnsville, Minnesota, and it's called Rhythm and Rain.
And this is kind of more that kind of distressed fade effect. It almost has like a neon glow by the way that they've done it. It's really amazing. I'm pretty sure that's I was going to say they maybe stenciled it when they did the paint. Like they put a stencil over it, paint, and then they pull the stencil off and continue with. I think that's pretty much how that happened.
Okay, now the second one is, I think, my favorite piece in the whole exhibit.
What?
And it's also a prize winner.
Third place.
Third place? No, just kidding. Third place.
I'm pretty sure it's like third place from all 3 exhibits combined.
Yes.
And the other 2 better be dope because this one is amazing.
And so when you visit Paisley Park, the first thing that you see when you walk in the door are his eyes painted on the wall. And it's very overwhelming. I've only been once. I went in 2018, and just walking in the door, it like knocks the wind out of you.
Let's get in here.
Yeah. So again, the contrast in all of the colors here. Beautifully done. Pools of light and water.
I mean, this one is really, really sick. It takes so many rules of painting and applies it to fabric. And I also love how they've made the bold decision to make Paisley Park purple. You know, when you know like that it's stark white. This artist is Elizabeth Budd. Elizabeth has entered several Cherrywood contests and placed in 2.
Wow.
So Elizabeth knows what to do.
And Elizabeth is out of Louisville, Texas, and this is called The Spirit of Paisley Park. Which is, I mean, interesting, because depending on who you are and your relationship with him, you do or you don't feel his energy in Paisley Park anymore in the building. So that's been kind of interesting to hear people talk about that. Some people don't want to go back, and some people do want to go back. A lot of fans still find something there. I will definitely go back, but that is kind of interesting when you think about connecting with energy or not connecting with energy when you're in a place.
Yeah. An image of this was one of the images that I received as a recommended piece of marketing from Cherrywood when I applied for this, and I didn't want to use it. I didn't want to spoil it. I literally wanted to save this quilt for when you had to come see it.
Yeah, one of the viewers pointed out the detail on the dove here.
Yeah, the feet. Or the claws, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there is some very light painting or shading happening here that is not fabric-based, right? So the dove has some, but then the windows is where it really stands out. And when you're too close, it loses the effect. When you back up, you really get that depth of perception going on. Just want to point out that the little red Corvette has a raspberry beret on the back.
I didn't notice that.
They're out of control. Miss Bud is out of control.
Finally, last one.
Oh wait,
unless you have
the artist is watching apparently.
Oh wow.
Elizabeth Budd, if you can hear me, we would love to see you type something. We're going to give this a minute and see if Elizabeth chimes in. While we're waiting to see if Elizabeth... Hello, there's Elizabeth.
Hey, Elizabeth. So since we don't have your artist statement in front of us, share a little bit about your inspiration for this.
Or whatever you want to share.
Yeah, whatever you want to share.
I'm so glad you saw the beret.
Good eyes, Scott.
Well,
yeah, we can move on, and if Elizabeth, if you would love to share anything else, we will certainly read it for everyone. But again, just wonderful job, and congratulations on getting 3rd place.
I love the architecture of the building. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My first time at Paisley was in 2016, and it was before they turned it into anything. So you had to wait at the gate. Everybody was all at the gate. They were still decorating the gates. Nobody could go inside. And I went on a Wednesday afternoon, as I recall, middle of the day. And I was thinking, oh, it's like Wednesday at like noon or whatever. Nobody's going to be here. There's like 50 people milling around, putting stuff on. I thought I was going to have like this really private moment. Nope. Like everybody was still hanging out. And it was real powerful. And then months later, the same year, is when they started the tours. And I was able to go back and get inside, which I didn't think was ever going to happen. Yeah.
Awesome.
One more quilt, yes?
Yes, last one. So this is by, I will give it to Scott, who's been doing so well with the names.
No, I haven't. Chiharu Takahashi.
Good job. This artist is from Tokyo, Japan, and it's called Genius Prints. Of course, you've got the song titles there: Call My Name, Kiss, Purple Rain, Funk and Roll. Bat Dance, Let's Go Crazy, 3121.
Japan and Prince is no joke. You know? He is adored there.
I would love to get the perspective of some international fans and how they experienced Prince, because a lot of times over here in the US, you know, the tours weren't well attended when he did tour here. You know, and sometimes the songs didn't hit the charts. And so I'm wondering if you're a fan in Japan or elsewhere, how that experience was a little bit different.
Cherrywood mentions that this Japanese artist is friends with the other Japanese artist, although this piece was not lost in customs.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know, one more sweep of the room and then we're done?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Thank you all for chiming in. A couple of shout outs and maybe an announcement. Shout out to Cherrywood Hand-Dyed Fabrics, who put this together, and they do various themes, right? It's not like the place is owned by Prince. So you should definitely check them out. They have a book of this exhibit, not just of this exhibit, but all 3 of the traveling exhibits combined. You can buy that book at their website. They also have a poster with all of the quilts on it. I have ordered both of those things. So if you ever come to Streetlight Guild, I'll have the book and the poster here for you to see. Also a shout out, and actually an announcement vis-a-vis a shout out, to Rachel Kayla, who we mentioned earlier, But I have to mention one more time because Rachel, who's a real estate agent, among many other things, and an enormous Prince fan, basically booked a 360 digital photographer to come in and take a 360-degree tour of this entire exhibit, which we will be providing to everyone as a link online. So you will be able to walk through the exhibit, see the pieces, see them in the room as if you are in the room. You know, it's a 3D rendering. And Rachel made that happen. A guy named Jake came through, and it was awesome, a good time. And we're just really pleased that even though this exhibit will go away, you will forever be able to access it through the 3D exhibit. Cherrywood didn't even know we were doing that. I hope it's okay, because we already did it. Anything else, Erica?
Yeah, again, if you want to get the Prince bundle of fabric and make your own Prince-inspired quilt, you can go to cherrywoodfabrics.com. And they currently have, as I mentioned earlier, a Princess Diana contest going on right now that you can enter. But also, again, just thanks everyone for tuning in. This was a lot of fun for us. We hope it was a lot of fun for you as well. And I think before we go, though, Scott should say a little bit about Streetlight Guild, because I don't think he did at the beginning.
Well, I said a little, but basically Streetlight Guild is a nonprofit performing arts organization. And basically in this building on both floors, as you can see, this is an art gallery. But on the first floor, it's not always an art gallery. It's usually a performance hall. And so we do music and poetry and all kinds of things. Anything I could think to put into the building, I do. But I'm also a huge Prince fan, of course. And so this was kind of a gimme. Erica really kind of set this in motion. She was aware of the exhibit when it was in Cincinnati, right? But you didn't get a chance to go to Cincinnati and see it.
No.
And so she was like, you know, you're an arts administrator. Maybe you should put on an exhibit.
Don't make it sound purely selfish.
Not at all. Of course not. This was really intended for everyone to come enjoy. Not just Prince, but the art of quilting. It was, as you can see, this was amazing. And this is the kind of work that I like to present, stuff that you would not normally see. So thanks everybody involved for making this work. And Kent for the other artwork as well. We'll get a link up for him and all of that good stuff. But yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. May you live to see the dawn.